Hello and welcome to the A Quilting Life podcast. I'm Sherry McConnell from A Quilting Life.
And I'm Chelsea from Chelsea Stratton Designs.
And we are here today with episode 105, airing Monday, February 26th, 2024. Super excited. This is a fun week for us.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about that later. First, I just want to mention Cozy Earth is a sponsor for this episode. We are grateful to have them on board. We love our Cozy Earth sheets and towels. I love my bathrobe. I love the body cream that they're now carrying.
And the socks.
And the socks. We love our Cozy Earth socks.
I wear them every night.
Do you?
I do wash them.
I wash them. Soft. Well, we both got a few pairs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can.
Oh, I actually have a pair of those as well. Yeah, I forgot about those. Yeah, they are nice.
They're really good. The Cozy Earth products are made from bamboo from viscose, or viscose from bamboo.
Tomato.
But the sheets are temperature regulating and the products are all soft and cozy. So anyway, we love Cozy Earth. Use the code AQuiltingLife when you check out to get 35% off site-wide. Okay, and Chelsea has the quilts, so we'll let her talk about them.
Yeah, I brought I love kind of how Strawberry Lemonade actually plays really well with Seashore Drive. And so, it does. It's kind of, you could mix and match them.
Yeah.
And they're both fat quarter quilts today. So on the wall, we have Magnolia, and Miss Magnolia was inspired by this one. And this one is fat quarter friendly, made in our Seashore Drive collection. One of my favorite quilt patterns, and one of the first collections that we moved into using Bella 200. And then on the table is Summer Slice, and this one has been a big hit. I love this row quilt. I'm kind of excited to see people's versions of it this year now that the fabric has shipped and the pattern is out, and if you choose to use a different collection, just because there are so many different fabric combinations you can use in it. So both fat quarter friendly and a couple of favorites of mine.
Yeah, I love them both. Billy mentioned earlier that we need to make sure and mention all of the other quilts because we do get questions.
Always, yep.
Yeah. So behind Chelsea at the top of the ladder is the Heart of the Home quilt on the cover of the April 2024 issue of American Patchwork and Quilting. And just for clarification, the only place you can get that pattern right now is from American Patchwork and Quilting. You can either buy the magazine on the newsstand or go to the allpeoplequilt.com website and purchase a digital copy.
Oh, nice.
So you can do that.
And we'll have that linked.
We'll have that linked in the description. And then below that is my montage quilt in Strawberry Lemonade also. And keeping with the Strawberry Lemonade theme behind me, we have Jelly Roll Sampler and Getaway. And then right behind Billy is Flowers for Emma. And at the end of the wall above the sewing machine, I'm not sure if that one is in the picture. Okay. That's the Garden Stars Sampler Mini. And that one is actually pieced in our Walkabout collection. And the quilt behind Billy, I always get questions about this. It's all scrappy. The entire quilt was from my stash. I get questions, where can I buy those backgrounds? And they're from 50 different collections, so all scrappy.
I think you should make, because that's not all of our fabrics.
None of it is probably our fabric.
I think you should make one
with our fabrics.
With our fabrics.
Yeah.
Not to give you something else to do, but we have so many low volumes too that would work well.
That would be really fun.
Yeah. Just an idea.
Yeah, that's true. And then I have something on the table. Should I share it? Go ahead and share this now. So our marketing director, Lisa Alexander, sent me this package with sticky rollers. Picks up everything but the kitchen sink. Picks up dust, lint, fur, threads, hair, crumbs, coins, glitter, sand, seeds, dirt, confetti, and more. And to clean it, you actually just stick it under warm soapy water, a little bit of Dawn in a bucket, and everything just magically falls off. And I watched the video. I know that Lisa sent us this because there are threads everywhere when you're a quilter.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait to use it on my cutting mat and on the sides of my jelly rolls, on my clothes when I get done sewing. And the video that you watch for the product information, it also shares about this other product that she sent along. It's called the Nubby and it's the stickyroller.com, but we'll link it in the description. But this is great for stubborn pet hair, anything on carpet. You just push it in one direction and it picks everything up. And there's also a mini one of these rollers and also a roller that has a long handle so you could use it on drapes or your walls, a design wall. It's just fabulous. So we thought that quilters everywhere would want to know about this product. And I really want to thank Lisa for reaching out with this because that's one of my number one problems. In fact, the other day we were filming and I had made a mistake and had to pick some stuff out and sew. And I actually had to go change my shirt because I had so much thread on it. And if I had had this, it would have been perfect.
Can I tell you how tempted I am to have Billy film a commercial of us using like this is the type of stuff I want to be doing. It's like a Swiffer commercial.
Yes.
And then we can have Jack in the commercial and we can like show how we're getting rid of the dog.
Yeah.
Well, I'm taking that home
He's
today.
taking the Nubby home to use in his car, right?
Yep, I want it in my car, in my room.
Yep.
Trust me, his hair's everywhere. So.
Yep. So Billy's he'll have a review on this next podcast.
Yeah.
The Nubby.
I'll let you know how it works with pet
Jack.
hair.
Yes.
Jack will be reviewing it also.
Yes.
Okay, and you guys also have an announcement you want to make about something coming out later this week, right?
Yes.
Yes. On Friday, we will be sharing some exciting things with you. We have a new fabric collection.
Yeah.
We'll start sharing those fabrics on Friday, and then the following week we'll start sharing the new patterns.
We're just a little giddy about it, but we say this every time.
Yes.
Lots of new patterns, new fabric collection, and that's all we can say right now, but we are very excited about it as usual. And
stay tuned. We actually won't have a Thursday video this week on the channel because we will save that video for Friday and it will be an introduction to the fabric.
Yes.
So be sure to tune in on Friday morning here on the YouTube channel to get your first look at it.
Yes. And we'll be talking things that will be coming with that. And we just can't wait to share more information about it because it's a fun collection.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different and just fun.
Yeah, we're excited.
Awesome. Okay, we do have a couple listener quilts to share today. And then we also have a comment we want to read and a question that we're going to address today because it's a great question, one, but it's also one that the sooner we can answer it, the better for people that might have the same question. And then after all those things, then I have an announcement about the podcast, and it pertains to listener quilts, questions, and comments and everything like that. So we will jump into that. Our first listener quilt today is a Hearts at Home quilt, and this is from Nicole. She says, "Hi, Sherry, Chelsea, and Billy. Happy almost Valentine's Day." She had shared this or sent this prior to that. "I just wanted to share with you my Hearts at Home quilt made with Happy Days fabric. This quilt was quilted by Shelly of Ma Tante Quilting, and if you look closely at the quilting design, there are hearts in the clamshells. As you can tell by the crinkle, this quilt is well loved. Thank you so much for being a bright spot each week on my YouTube feed." She sent a good up-close photo of the quilt, and I'm going to try to maybe adjust the colors a little bit to make that quilting pop out even more so everyone can see it. But thank you very much, Nicole, for that. Okay, and then the next quilt is it the Heartfelt quilt, which isn't one of your patterns, but she made it in Sincerely Yours fabric. Is that right, Mom?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And then combined with a little bit of fabric from her stash, too.
Yes. So she says, "Dear Sherry, Chelsea, and Billy, I like your podcast very much. I took part in the Heartfelt quilt along. I was able to get some of your fabrics in Germany, and the rest is from my stash, like you said. She said she wanted to show us the quilt. A friend quilted it with the long arm, and she said, I hope you like it. And that is from Iris, and I believe she's from Germany.
Yes.
And she said she got the rest of the fabrics from Germany. So that's one. It's awesome to get an email from a listener from Germany,
Right.
and that able to get your fabrics there and put that together. So we have that up on the screen as well, and really amazing job with that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for sending these in. I love the listener quilts because I
Yes.
feel like it really it's just a nice community here
Yes.
where we're sharing other people's
Yeah.
work.
I love that too.
Okay, so the next thing I want to share is a comment, and this is from Kate. She said, "Thanks for a great podcast. I really enjoy listening to you as I walk the dog or drive home from work. Billy recently commented about listeners and watchers, and I wanted to let you know that as someone who is usually a listener, I really appreciate the way you describe what you were talking about so well. Sometimes I go back to the notes or to the YouTube channel to look up a pattern or get a picture of what was discussed, but you do a great job catering to both listeners and viewers." So I just wanted to say thank you for that, because like I did mention, I do try to be aware of listeners of the podcast. A podcast is first and foremost an audio version. A lot of podcasts now have turned to a video aspect to it as well. And like I've mentioned also, this podcast does work very well with a video version because of how many things we share on the podcast. But I just want to say thank you. It's good to know, and with you too as well, that whatever we're sharing, even if someone can't see it with their eyes, we do a good enough job, I guess, to let them know what we're talking about without them being able to see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was super excited when I got that email. I was excited to send it to you because I thought that would, let you know that you're doing a good job at explaining things. And so
and
thank
you guys as well. Verify. We want to, have our entire audience feel like they can listen or watch. Okay, now I'm going to get to the question that I had mentioned that we wanted to address right away because other people might have it as well. And this is from Lisa. And she said, "Hello, this is going to be a crazy request for ideas, as so many wonderful ideas are available on your website. I just became acquainted with your site this last month. I've enrolled in the 2024 block of the month and joined the Patreon membership and love skimming through many of your articles, designs, and ideas." She said she also reads the weekly newsletter, and she's feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So her question is, "I need a routine to get involved and make the most of my experience with you. Where should I start? All of your categories are useful, and I want to get to each of them. Plus, I'd like to go back to previous blogs, video, etc. Do you have any suggestions?" So I think, we have a new member of the community, I guess we could just say,
Right.
that has found us recently. What's some advice, and this could be true to other people that maybe just came across the podcast or the YouTube channel or your blog. How would you go about maybe helping them find a good place to start?
Yeah, I thought that was a great email, like you said. And I do get several emails like that almost weekly, but hers was so thorough that's why I forwarded hers to you, because she covered kind of all the categories. And she actually started out with 3 suggestions. She wondered about the newsletter or videos and the blog. So I would say if you're new, start by keeping up with the podcasts. We always share the most current things on the podcasts. We will even project out a little bit. So I would say start where you are and just try to stay current with the podcasts. The other thing is my weekly newsletter just comes out on Sundays, and it actually does give a link to all of the things that I posted on the blog earlier in the week. And then I also go into more detail about things that are coming up or things that are very current. So it's ideal for someone who doesn't want to get the email every time I post. And I do have that option as well, but for some people, that's just too many emails, and I totally understand that. So if you just get the weekly newsletter, then you can read the articles that I posted during the week and just go and read the ones that apply to you. The other thing I think is Billy has organized the videos on our YouTube by category. So I think that would be a great idea to go through those categories, and you could even make a list of things that you want to get to first according to category.
Yeah, they're in different playlists.
Yeah, different playlists. Yes. And then also on my blog, I have a quilting index. It's a round circle that you click on, and if you go to that, it has all of the blog posts. Well, not all of them, but a majority of them listed by category. So if you're really interested in bags or pillows or table runners or fat quarter quilts, you could go through the blog posts that way, or block of the month, or anything, any certain topic, Valentine's, Christmas. There are just lots of categories so that would kind of be the way that I would suggest. And I would suggest just make yourself a smaller list each month so that you don't get overwhelmed and go through that. And then we are also both on Instagram. If you're there, you can follow. I feel like I'm not super regular there, but if it's big and it's important, I'm going to do a post.
Especially like new fabrics, new patterns.
Right.
Instagram I'm not as regular on anymore.
Yeah. And then we also do have a Sherry and Chelsea Facebook group, if you like Facebook, where people post quilts they've made with our patterns and fabrics and share resources with one another. It's kind of a community type.
And it's more active because it is more of a community.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like there's something for everyone. And we have listeners and viewers who don't like Facebook or Instagram. And for them, the podcast and the blog are plenty.
Are their favorite. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just find what works for you.
Everyone has like a different preference, which is great that we can kind of hit most platforms.
Right.
And she did mention, I wanted to mention that she had mentioned that she's a newly retired elementary school teacher. So she's getting back into exploring the world of quilting. So she said she had to set it aside many times. So, I not like a 30-year veteran teacher, but I get it. There's a lot of times as a teacher, you don't have as much free time as you might think as other people might think you might have as a teacher to do things. So, congratulations on that. And now that you're have more free time, truly have more free time, then this is perfect. I was going to add also that with the YouTube channel, people can also create their own playlists. So you could go through those categories and those playlists, and there will be an update coming to that as well soon. I want to reorganize some of the categories and add one, but just to give everyone an overview, there are like how-to videos. Those are more tutorial-based type things. There's ones we have that are titled Quilt Patterns and Projects. So any type of quilt pattern that my mom or Chelsea shares, that goes into that category, or just anything that's more of a show and tell, not so much instructional, but new fabric, new patterns, things like that. There's a tip section that my mom has done different tips for different things throughout the years. There's a planning and organization section, and then obviously we have our podcast as well. So those are just some of the categories, and you can go through based on those, and then you don't even have to watch them all, but if a title or something stands out, you can click on that and add it to your own playlist, and then when you do have time, you could go through and watch those videos.
Wow, I didn't realize you could do that either.
Yeah, you can make your own playlist.
Okay. I make my own playlists for like music all the time.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know you could do that with YouTube. I do it on my podcast channel where I can add something to the queue or play something next in iTunes podcasts. But that's
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts. Yeah, that's a good thing to know. She also mentioned that she filled out 6 pages of my UFO tracker with 12 each. So that's 72 projects that she's got to go on. But
Oh my
I
goodness.
feel like just having it down on paper really does help, because
Yeah.
with that many projects, if you didn't know what you had, there would be no way you would know where to start. So,
Holy cow.
and reading that actually made me think of something. If you are a person that has a lot of projects, you could print out those sheets and label them table runners, pillows,
Yeah.
baby quilts, charity quilts. So you could put a different category at the top. And that way, the next time you went to make a baby quilt or a charity quilt, you could say, oh, what do I already have that I've started that I can pull out and work on?
Wow.
Yeah. So thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I think more people will have that question as well. So that's great. Okay, so now I'm going to get into my announcement that has to do with listener quilts and questions and moving forward. The reason we came up with this idea is to, one, to stay a little more organized ourselves, and two, to take some of this burden off of my mom. So moving forward from now on, if you want to reach out to the podcast, we have a podcast email, and it's pretty simple. It's a quiltinglifepodcast@gmail.com. I'll have that up on the screen. I'll have it in the description, in the show notes, everywhere you can find it, and it will always be there as well. So anybody that wants to send in a quilt to share, I mentioned a few episodes ago that there was one that I shared that was from a long time ago that I randomly found. Okay, because that was, my mom gets it in her personal email. She sent it to my personal email, and sometimes they get a little cluttered. And I was like, oh, I forgot to share that. So we went ahead and shared it. I saw it in the comments that there's some other people that have said, oh, I shared a quilt once, but I never saw it come on. So we want to make sure that we don't miss anything. We want a better place to where it's focused only on the podcast, not personal stuff, not other business related things for my mom. So a quiltinglifepodcast@gmail.com. If you have quilts that you want to share, send them there. Please also just leave a note and let us know that it's okay to share on the podcast. We always just like to get permission before we show anything publicly.
Yeah, that would be super helpful, because I spend a lot of time emailing people back asking if it's okay. And so if I didn't have to do that, or Billy didn't have to do that. Save that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then also for our listener question episodes, that this will be the place to send those as well. So if you have a question that you want answered on the podcast, a quiltinglifepodcast@gmail.com, if you send it there, that will help me organize those a lot better as well. And also, like any comments or anything like that. One thing I want to let everyone know, though, is that I'm the one that's going to be manning this new email account. So if you have detailed questions about anything else, like, I'm not going to be able to, I'm not a quilter. So if you're like, hey, I need help with this pattern or whatever, I don't have a response for you, sadly. This is more of a place that's going to be for us just to take everything in and then eventually get it out here onto the podcast. I won't have a lot of immediate answers or anything like that for you. So just so everyone knows that this is a place to send us stuff, and then we're going to get it out on the podcast. It's not going to be, I'm not going to have a lot to get back to you through the email, if that makes sense. So, yep, a quiltinglifepodcast@gmail.com from now on, and we're hoping that we don't miss any listener quilts from now on. We don't miss any questions, and it should help us organize and run this podcast even a little better and take some of that burden off of my mom.
Okay. Yes, I think that's this was Billy's idea. And as soon as I heard it, I said, yes, this is going to be awesome.
Yes. No more emails.
One more thing I wanted to mention before we get in. We have a couple of topics for today, but I did want to mention that the Heart of the Home sew-along is going to start this week as well. And I won't actually be posting I may do a post on Thursday. We'll see, because Friday's going to be about the fabric. But their start date was the 29th, maybe. So maybe that will be Thursday, and I'll do a post about that. But if you are wanting to sew along with Strawberry Lemonade fabrics, I just can't stress this enough, because week 1 is for gathering your fabrics. Find them now because they're getting a little bit difficult to find. And there were kits and I sold out, and then I reached out to Chelsea and she did more kits and she sold out.
Yeah.
And those are just gone. But we did film a YouTube video that we will link in the description below where I gave a few other options. And actually, I was just talking this morning with Chelsea. You could actually do it with 15 fat quarters.
Yeah.
Plus
To start.
for the prints,
Yeah.
and then add in all of the backgrounds and low volume prints that are listed in the magazine.
Yeah.
So if you want to make something very similar, you can just start out with those 15 fat quarters and then get everything else. Find your border or binding. So,
And I know we talked about this. I might have some bundles available, but it's just not for sure because
right. Yeah. We're both going to try to gather up the last of our fat
Some.
quarters and have them
yeah.
in the shop by the time this podcast airs.
Yes.
So, yes.
That's the plan,
That's
but I
the
don't know
plan.
how many
Right.
is what it'll be.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just keep in mind, and I'm sure the quilt is going to be beautiful in any collection that you sew it with. It would make a fabulous Christmas quilt. I think red, white, and blue would be stunning
What?
for that. So, in fact, I'm still going back and forth as to what I'm going to, because I'm going to make it again. And I'm trying to decide if I want to do red, white, and blue with all of our red, white, and blue
I don't think I have the magazine.
fabrics.
I think I
You
need-
don't? I need to give you a copy.
Do you have a copy?
I do have an extra copy, I think, because I ended up with 3 copies and I gave one to Billy, so I should still have 2.
Whoa! You gave
So-
one to Billy?
Well,
Yeah.
it was so I could put information on the video.
On the video.
Yeah, I'm not going to be
Billy's like,
participating.
Did you show it to
Firstborn
Gammy?
child.
But I did show it to Gammy,
good.
to my grandma,
Okay.
so she thought it was neat to
Okay.
look at. But yeah, it's all yours if you want it, Chelsea.
Okay, perfect.
Oh,
If I can't find my 3rd
goodness.
copy, he'll give you his. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to make any commitments, though, because you
Okay.
guys know how I am.
Yes. You have lots to sew right now.
Not committing.
All right, so you ready to get into the topics today?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. The first one, it came to me because of we've mentioned the Quilting Life Academy. That actually, by the time this podcast airs, the last module will have been released.
Yes.
So anyway, as I'm editing and working on those videos with my mom, one thing that she mentioned in the academy was quilt backings, and I guess I've never really thought about it that much because a lot of what we do is on the front of the quilt. I mean, you always show the backings, and I know when we did the live stream with Fat Quarter Shop, they wanted to see the backings on everything. But you mentioned a few different things about it, and so I thought maybe we never really talked about them on the podcast very much. So I know you guys do a lot of, I guess, just solid backings. It's just one print, but there are also ways that you can liven it up a little bit, I guess, right? You can do some scrappy backings, and maybe you guys could talk about some tips or some different ideas for quilt backings that you've done in the past or would like to do.
Yeah, so I thought that would be fun too, because sometimes we choose the same backings for our new fabric collection quilts, but sometimes we choose totally different ones. How do you choose your backings when you're going through the SKUs and you are deciding on the backings? What guides your decision?
So this is really funny because if the quilt leans slightly modern, I'll put a basic low volume as the backing. If the quilt leans more traditional, I always put a floral.
Interesting.
But that's how I've always done it.
Yeah. I usually like to choose the larger prints, the larger florals in several of the lighter colorways for backings. I don't know. I like that. I like to where there's a lot of color on the back, but also some white, because most of our quilts are quilted in white or off-white thread, and that way the thread doesn't stand out on the back. I remember one of our early quilts, I did a darker backing, and the white just, I don't know. I don't love that look of the white thread on a dark back.
Yes, and I think that's why. So just for clarification, all of mine are from our low volume prints.
Yes.
I just like to use as many as those as I can. Typically, I'm doing like 5 quilts per fabric collection.
Right.
So most of those low volumes get used. And I like to use like a different one for each.
Yes.
And we talked about this morning, but I usually do not pick a color. Say like an aqua background backing would be really cool. But like typically I'm not going to choose that. And I was just telling Mom, what are you using your quilt for? If it's a sample, I'm probably going to use it for a low volume quilt. If it's like a quilt I'm taking to a soccer game, I'm probably going to put a darker backing on it because I know what that's being used for.
Yeah. I do pick a lot of aquas and grays for backings because I feel like they're still light enough that they're not going to show through all the white fabric on the front.
Yes.
But yet they usually have some white in them so that also the white thread won't be a distraction for the quilting.
See, the white thread, you can't really see it with the aqua and the gray, but if you're like doing a navy, it is so apparent.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes. One thing I've done too, I've gotten, because when we request our backing fabrics, sometimes I'll look at what have I used in outer borders for my other quilts that I might run low of in my sample yardage, because when you do a backing, you always have some strips left over at the end when you trim. And so sometimes I will choose something that I've used a lot of in my regular quilts so that I just can have a few more scraps of that and don't completely, because sometimes we run out when you're making so many quilts and then magazine quilts and then block of the month and moto block heads, and I have prints that I run out of before it's available to purchase. So,
which is so sad. We get really sad when we run out.
Really sad. But I have started now. I cut a half yard of everything when I get my sample yardage, and I put it on the shelf so I don't run out of anything before the collection ships. And if I have to steal from it, I leave myself a note what I took. And so
like before the collection ships and Mom has made like every project imaginable or quilt or magazine quilt, she will sometimes message me, do you have a quarter yard of like these 3 prints?
Yes.
And I'm always like, have at it, because I don't make everything. I mean, I make 5 quilts, but Mom is like using her sample yardage like crazy. And it's always worked out perfect because I have my sample yardage that she can come pick and choose from. So works out.
Yeah. But Chelsea, neither one of us really do a lot of scrappy backings.
No.
I feel like it takes extra time, and we're generally trying to get things to the quilter and have it quilted. And so
but a lot of people do. And pieced, scrappy, all that. But typically I don't, because I'm like, gotta get this backing put together and I'm sending it to the quilter.
Have you seen many of those type of backings like at Quilt Market or anywhere else with any of your other friends that have done some?
Fat Quarter Shop does a great job at pieced backings.
Kimberly does a lot of pieced backings. Yes.
Tons.
Yeah.
And the Moonbeams has one.
Yes.
It's really cool.
Yes. And our 2020 quilt with Summer Sweet with them had a pieced backing.
Yeah.
Too. I have a few piece backings from back in the day when I was quilting. I'm thinking of one that I used all of these different older fig tree collections that I had scraps of and did a strip pieced backing, and it was really fun and I love it. But boy, when we got those 108-inch wides with our favorite things, those were phenomenal to work with. Not having to sew a seam was great. Yeah. And I used all of my gray because that worked with other things other than Christmas. So that is gone. But our hexagon cheater print at 60-inch wide was even fabulous to sew with.
You guys, the cheater print, Mom saved me, because remember I had that quilt and I thought I ran out. There's not enough of this backing. And Mom's like, the cheater print, use the cheater print. And it worked great.
Yes.
I had enough of that.
Yeah. In fact, I have a full bolt that I haven't opened, and then I have a partial bolt, and I know it's going to run out because I just keep using it. But
you have that much?
I do.
You have been, see, that was my mistake. I ordered so many bolts of that, And I thought, oh yeah, I'll just keep X amount of yards. And now I'm like kicking you can't order it.
You can't find
completely sold out. And I am just kicking myself. And I'm like, you want to know what? Someday the cheater print is going to make a comeback.
Yes.
The Hexie. Because it's that good. It was good.
Yes.
Are a lot of, now you said the 108-inch fabric, that's sort of rare with a lot of fabric collections, or can you always find it in a quilt shop?
A lot of it comes out, just depends. Sometimes 3 or 4 with one collection, or we have only done it the one time with Favorite Things, and they were all the polka dots. I feel like I would love someday to do a 108-inch floral backing. That would be fabulous. That would be my dream.
A focal floral. We talked about this with Kimberly. She asked, are you ever going to do like a large floral?
Yeah.
And that was my vision of it, was a wide backing with that. And I mean, yeah, it could be a print in the collection.
Right.
But
sometimes also you can find something from another designer that's fairly neutral
great.
That will work with our fabric that's 108.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. Not just your fabric specifically, but are there always going to be a variety of 108-inch fabrics that people can find? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There has to be a certain number of yardage, I believe, ordered of them for them to print it. So they don't do it with everything.
Oh, okay. So that was my next question, is what dictates if a collection has that type of 108-inch? It's based on pre-orders?
Well, no.
No.
But a certain amount needs to be ordered
if they're going to
offer it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you mean it has to be ordered by the company?
Yeah.
By shops.
By shops. So pre-orders.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Sorry, I'm not trying to
But it's not based on pre-orders.
It's not based on pre-orders.
So what do you call it then? Orders?
They just are required to Moda
will decide, we think we can sell
this much of this.
Okay.
So we're going to
we'll
make
offer it.
the basic order because we think
So it's based on their
going to
estimate.
sell. Yeah.
Estimates.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
More than
So not
than any
every
type of
collection
orders.
has a wide backing. They look over what they think will make a great wide backing with someone's collection. And I think, it's so smart because then Camille has ones that would work great with tons of collections.
Yeah. And Joanna's had some lately that I've picked up just because they were so neutral that I could use them with anything else.
Yeah. Saves you so much time. It's awesome.
And the fabric's a little bit different. It feels really silky. I love it.
I love it.
Oh, the 108-inch is
it's different.
more silky.
Milled a little bit different. So, yes.
Interesting. And would you both agree would that be the most preferred backing fabric you would use then, because it's less sewing on the back?
Yes.
Yeah, I would, because then even if you're trying to match, a lot of people like the prints to look like it's seamless, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to kind of like sew it to make it look like you never cut anything. With the wide backing, you don't have to do that.
Right.
There's no seam in the middle of your quilt. It's just one piece of fabric.
Exactly. And I have some of the red polka dot left from Favorite Things, and I'm just saving it for Christmas quilts I'm going to make down the road.
I have every print left.
Do you have every print? You have the gray too?
Oh, wait, maybe I don't have the gray.
Because the gray is so neutral. Use it.
Maybe I have the gray.
Yeah.
I don't know. As she says, I'm going to be coming over to your house later today.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think you guys answered all my questions for that. Sometimes I have to dig a little deeper to make sure I get all my questions answered.
Yes.
But good job. Okay, so the next topic, our last one for today, is another thing that I thought of, and actually Mom mentioned it early in the podcast, so now I'm going to mention it as well. The topic is dealing with mistakes in quilting. And I think that no matter how long you quilt, like my mom's been quilting a long time, I think she's a good quilter. And she made a mistake the other day. Like she said, that's when she had all the lint on her shirt.
I thought this was what prompted you to pick this topic. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so that mistake was made. It happens, right? It doesn't matter if you're a brand new quilter, you've been quilting a long time, like my mom. They're going to be made. And my mom had to pretty much stop and redo take something apart and redo it so that we could move forward with the quilt we were working on.
Yeah, it was sashing, and I was multitasking in my defense while I was doing it. I was multitasking. You should not multitask when you're doing certain things with quilting. But I did the sashing the reverse of what it was supposed to be. Instead of light, dark, light, I did dark, light, dark. And then when I went to sew it into my quilt, I realized something is wrong. And we had already filmed, and I had already sewn this sashing in between blocks, and we had showed it on film. So I had to stop everything. I had to unpick all of the sashing, take all the blocks out, make new sashing, put it back. It was.
Doesn't that just aggravate you though? I have such an unhealthy relationship with my seam ripper. We just are never gonna get along.
That situation is a unique one because yes, we're doing something for paying customers to follow along with you with that. So there was no choice. I mean, that was okay, we got to redo it. You got to take it apart and redo it all because this has to be right. Whereas if you're doing something for yourself, that also could happen, right? But I mean, at that point, you might be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I need to take some time off," or I don't know. How do you guys handle that? Like, do you feel like you need to? If you're like, "Nope, I'm gonna get right back on this right away." I mean, that was your only option, Mom, that day,
right?
But other times for other people, like, I don't know, how have you guys gone about handling situations like that in the past?
You have two options. You can either say, I'm going to take some time off and take a breather, or you can tell yourself, I can do hard things and go through with it. Okay.
I always tell students in my classes, think about how you'll feel about this. You know, there in 10 minutes, in 10 days, in 10 months, whatever. Is it going to bother you down the road? If not, maybe you have one little block turned the wrong, one little half square triangle turned the wrong way in a block, and maybe it's not going to bother you. And maybe you don't want to unpick that whole block and take the sashing out. Maybe you notice it right before you're taking it to the quilter and you don't want to do it. It's just a personal decision that you have to make, right?
I have a story. Mom has a quilt with houses on it.
Yes.
And we went to Portland to go. Mom was teaching a class.
Well, first we went to Quilt Market.
And then we went to Portland. So this quilt has not only been at Quilt Market and nobody said anything. This quilt went to Portland. It was quilted. And
the quilter didn't notice.
Nobody noticed. And this house had a mistake in it. And when we were in Portland, someone in the class was like, well, that looks off, not in a rude way. They were like, oh my goodness, and my mom was like, holy cow, I have looked at this quilt 1 billion times. And sometimes you just don't notice.
Could you describe what the mistake was?
Yeah, Mom can't.
It's my Be My Neighbor pattern. Yeah. And I flipped the window unit and the outer house unit in one of the blocks. And so, yes, it hung in our booth at Quilt Market. Nobody said a word. I don't know if anybody noticed it and they were afraid to say something.
It looks like somebody took a chunk out of the house.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then I thought,
a piece of cake. It was just like a whole square.
I know. And I thought, did we have another quilt? Sometimes we drape other quilts in front of. Maybe it was covered at Market and nobody saw. I don't know. But then the quilt actually went straight to a quilt shop in Portland, Holly Hill, and they hung it in their shop for quite a while and nobody noticed it while it was hanging in their shop. It wasn't until Chelsea and I arrived to teach the class that one of the students noticed. And I noticed the cover photo for that quilt doesn't show the mistake.
It
was over on the side of the quilt, and so the cover's fine, the directions are fine.
And it will never be changed.
It will never see the light of day.
Because once you quilt it, that's pretty much game over, right?
I mean, I have heard of people doing not quilt surgery after it's quilted, or have you?
I don't know if I've heard of that after. One time Val noticed something. I can't even remember now which quilt it was.
Did she unpick it?
But she noticed it. It was on her machine and she unpicked it and fixed it
for you.
For me, and then continued on quilting.
That is dedication.
Yeah.
Wait, so you can pick out a custom quilted quilt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In
the
fact,
threads, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes Marion will start a pattern and she will hate it, and she will do a couple rows and unpick it because she doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And start over.
If it bugs her, and she'll tell me, she'll be like, that one bugged me, and I love it.
And sometimes she'll say,
do you have to do that by hand?
Yeah.
And so that's very time consuming.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, Marion has picked out things before, and I've said, Marion, you didn't have to do that. I would have been fine with it. And she said, no, it just bugged me too much.
Yeah.
Because that was another question I had, is that, have you ever brought a quilt to, and I know you guys have a good relationship with your quilters, with Marion and Val. So if you brought something to either of them and they noticed something, I mean, that way you just said about Val, she picked it and then changed it for you. I mean, are there some times where they look it over and they haven't started the quilting yet, and they're like, take that one quilt, for example. Let's just say they had caught it or something. Would they call you and be like, hey, I noticed this. Do you want to come back and get it and fix this first?
Yeah, I'm sure she would do that if she had noticed it. So
I think that's why I love our relationship so much, is we're very honest with each other.
But it hasn't happened before where you had to like run back in and pick anything up, or?
No.
It hasn't happened.
Never happened? Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Knock on wood, right?
Sorry.
We don't want that to happen. In fact, I just you picked up some quilts for me last night, and I actually just looked at one of them because it had a lot of specific things that had to be turned in a specific way. And when I was trimming it this morning so that I combined it tonight, I thought, I hope I did this right. I was in such a hurry to get this off to the quilter, but everything looks good.
Yeah.
So, and then that's another question is, at this point in your quilting journey, careers, whatever you want to call it, what are some mistakes? And I'm talking about before you send it off to the quilters. So let's say there is a half square triangle or something turned a wrong direction. Is that like, if you notice it, you're going to fix it 100%?
I will usually, if a block's turned in the wrong direction, I will. I actually have another quilt that was published in a Martingale book where I had something turned wrong, and
really,
and there's a picture of that right in the book, of the mistake, the block with the mistake in it, and people have emailed me, and I just feel like, that it's just part of my journey. But
yeah.
I'm not, if I cut off a point on a flying geese unit, I am not going to unpick that.
Yeah, something like that. That's pretty small.
That's pretty small. If it's just a slight titch over the point, I'm not going to worry about it.
You can't even tell in photography.
Right.
You can't.
But if this stem section were upside down, I would flip it.
Oh, but
something like that I would change.
I think on this quilt too, I did not want to lose any points. I was very
right.
But yeah, you're right. If I had flipped, say this watermelon went this direction,
you would have changed.
I would have switched it, because this quilt is so row specific.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I mean, your points all look pretty perfect here on these strawberries. So.
Well, it's taken several years. So.
But yeah, if there's a point cut off, I'm just not going to worry about it. And sometimes I don't, when I'm sewing for myself and I'm not sewing for a new pattern, I sometimes will just sew for the fun of it and not even worry and be so precise.
Okay, so then for a hobby quilt, Mom, let's say you make a mistake like you made the other day. Are you going to do exactly what you did the other day? And do it right away?
That was a big mistake.
Yeah. I knew it
terrible.
Had to be.
The sashing looked terrible.
But would you do it right then and there if there was no deadline and no filming, or would you have been like, oh gosh, I can't believe I did this. I need to step away for a bit and do it tomorrow. Or I almost think that you would have done what you did no matter what.
Well, I don't know. Honestly, if I hadn't been filming, I probably would have taken that downstairs by the couch with my seam ripper, and just the next time I sat down to watch TV, I would have unpicked it all.
But you would have done it.
But I would have done
within
it.
a 24-hour period.
Within a 24-hour period.
I feel like Billy and I both agree.
Yeah.
Mom would have been like, oh, I am fixing this.
Okay,
Yes.
and you, Chelsea, though, what would you have done?
I would have put it in a box.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then
And like
5 years later,
5
we
years
pull it
later,
out.
Billy would have been like, hey, did you ever fix that? And I would have been like, oh, I haven't even thought about it.
It looks good. Let's just take it to the quilter.
It was so vastly different.
That's what I was sort of getting
knows
at.
too. He knows Chelsea's probably not going to fix that or finish that. Oh.
I did have a quilt one time that had, I think they were quarter square triangles, and they were all just like a 1/16 of an inch off. And I started putting the quilt together, and it just was horrible. And so I unpicked it all, and I took all of those quarter square triangle blocks, and I trimmed, and it literally was just 1/16 of an inch.
But it makes such a difference.
Then I put it together, and it went together like a dream, and I was so happy.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
with those quarter square triangles, I'm like, no, this is so much work. I don't want to do this. But if you don't, because of the block that it is,
Right.
it ruins everything.
Yeah.
That's why I tend to stay away from the QSTs people.
Yeah. But yes,
Yeah.
in overall, if I catch a mistake, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah. And we make mistakes, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Well, and that's the biggest takeaway is that you're going to make mistakes. They're going to happen. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you're a beginner or if you've been quilting a long time. Just with everything else, I mean, mistakes happen.
Yeah.
And I guess, just how you deal with them can be different for everybody. But at the end of the day, no one should feel too bad about anything because everyone's going to make them.
And my goodness, Billy and I did the video, and people were so nice to me. They were like, these are amazing. And I was like, wow, I love you guys.
And also, that mistake that I made that Billy's referring to with the sashing, that's a method of sashing that I love and that I've done over and over and over again. And I still made that mistake and didn't catch it until I went to sew the rows together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just from, I guess me working with you with the Academy and really getting more in detail of starting something from the beginning,
Right.
Learning and everything like that. There's a lot of different directions. There's a lot of math. There's a million different ways you can make a mistake putting a quilt together. And so it's bound to happen to everybody. And it's okay because you're doing it. You're doing it because you like it and you want to progress at it, right? And so, I know I keep thinking like it's not a competition. I know there are competitions, but you don't have to do it for a competition, right?
Exactly.
Not everyone's trying to get a blue ribbon.
You heard it here first. Billy said it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we've covered everything.
Yeah.
And our next episode will be Monday, March 11th. We will have quilts with the new fabric on the wall and on the table and on the ladders. And we'll be talking all about it. As we mentioned, in the meantime, you can get a sneak peek at the fabric this Friday here on our YouTube channel.
Okay, and thank you for being here with us today, and thanks so much for stopping by.